My name's Emily. Before I tell you everything, tell me where you're watching from. I read every comment. And if you've ever felt invisible, unwanted, or too much for someone who promised to love you, subscribe to this channel. These stories save people more than you imagine. For years, I believed I was hard to love. Not because I was cruel, not because I was cold, but because I was fat. That's what my husband taught me to believe. Slowly, quietly, and with a smile on his face. Until the day he said the words that broke me forever. No man could truly love a woman like you. What he never imagined was that the man who would prove him wrong was his own best friend. When I met Daniel, I thought life had finally chosen me. He was charming, well-spoken, ambitious, the kind of man who made others feel safe just by being near. I was 27, working at a small design studio, quiet, curvy, already used to being the woman men liked in secret, but rarely claimed in public. Daniel claimed me. He introduced me to his friends, posted pictures with me, held my hand in front of everyone. For the first time in my life, I felt chosen. I ignored the subtle comments, the jokes masked as concern. "You'd be unstoppable if you lost some weight," he once laughed. I laughed too, because that's what women like me learn to do to survive. We married after 2 years. The wedding photos were beautiful. I was beautiful in them. But even that day, his eyes lingered longer on my waist than on my face. The changes came slowly. The way he stopped touching me in bed. The way he sighed when I dressed up. The way compliments turned into advice. And advice turned into criticism. "That dress isn't flattering. You'd look so much better without that belly. I just want the best for us." I started eating alone, dressing in the dark, avoiding mirrors, and worst of all, I started believing him. Daniel never raised his voice. He didn't need to. His disappointment lived in his eyes, in the pauses between, his sentences, in the way he introduced me at business events. "This is Emily, my wife. No pride, just obligation." At dinners with his partners, wives whispered behind wine glasses. I caught reflections in mirrors, pity, judgment, comparison. One night, after a company gala, I overheard what finally shattered what was left of my dignity. Daniel was speaking to his best friend Lucas. "I love her," he said casually. "But let's be honest, desire isn't built on love alone." Lucas stayed silent. Daniel laughed. "She's let herself go. I'm still young, successful. I can't pretend it doesn't matter." I stood frozen behind the door. My husband was ashamed of me. And the man who heard everything was the only one who didn't laugh. That night, Daniel rejected me without even looking at my face, and I cried quietly so he could sleep in peace. He didn't leave in anger. He left with relief. "I need to live again, Emily." Those were his words. He had lost weight, bought new clothes, started traveling with coworkers, and I remained the reminder of a life he wanted to erase. "I don't feel desired anymore," he said. "I can't force attraction. You deserve someone who wants you." Then he added the sentence that still echoes in my bones. "You're too fat to be loved the way a man should love a woman." 3 weeks later, he was seen with another woman, slim, young, perfect for photos. The divorce was quick, clean, cold. I kept the apartment, the memories, and the shame. But I didn't know yet that fate had already chosen the man who was watching everything in silence. Lucas, while everyone disappeared. Lucas stayed, not as a savior, not as a flirt, but as a presence. He brought groceries, fixed the sink, sat on the floor with me while I cried without makeup or pride. He never once spoke badly about Daniel. He never once commented on my body. When I apologized for being a mess, he said, "You're a woman in grief. Mess means alive." For months, he never crossed a single line, and that's what made me feel safe. One night, while we watched the rain through my window, I asked him the question that haunted me. Was Daniel right? Lucas looked at me as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. About your body? No. About love? Absolutely not. His voice was trembling when he said, "He never truly saw you." And in that silence, something fragile was born. Hope. I was the last person to realize it. Everyone else already knew. The way Lucas looked at me when I entered a room, the way his eyes softened when I laughed, the way he stood between me and humiliation when others made careless jokes. One evening after dinner, he finally broke. "I've loved you for years," he confessed. "Stayed quiet because you weren't free." I panicked, not because I didn't feel the same, but because I was afraid my body would fail me again. "I'm not what men choose," I said. Lucas cupped my face as if holding something sacred. "You're not what weak men choose." Big difference. The first time he kissed me, I didn't feel inspected. I felt cherished. For the first time in my life, my body wasn't something I had to apologize for. It was simply mine. Daniel returned the day he saw us together. He walked into a cafe where Lucas and I sat laughing. His face collapsed. "You?" he asked Lucas. Lucas didn't move. "Yes, me." Daniel laughed bitterly and turned to me. "So this is how it ends?" I stood up with shaking legs. "It ended the day you decided I was unworthy of love." His voice cracked. "You changed, so did the truth. You taught me that love doesn't begin in the mirror," I said. "It begins in being seen." Daniel left without another word. But the damage between him and Lucas was permanent, or so he thought. Emily's life no longer revolved around survival. It revolved around growth. Months after she left Daniel's shadow behind, she had become someone new, not in body, but in presence. Her small freelance design jobs turned into full contracts. Her ideas were no longer questioned. People listened when she spoke. And the man who supported every step of that growth was Michael. He never pushed, never rushed, never tried to fix her. He simply believed in her, even when she still struggled to believe in herself. One afternoon, as sunlight poured through the office windows, Emily stood in front of a room full of executives, presenting a project that would change her career forever. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice did not. When the applause came, it was real, and when she looked up, Michael was standing at the back of the room, watching her with a pride that had nothing to do with possession, only admiration. Later that night, as they walked through the city lights, she whispered, "I used to think I was too much, too big, too unwanted." Michael stopped, turned to her, and said softly, "You were never too much. You were just in the wrong place with the wrong people." That was the night Emily finally understood something. Deep inside her heart, she wasn't rising to prove Daniel wrong. She was rising because she finally believed herself to be worthy of the life she once thought was impossible. The proposal didn't come with fireworks or cameras. It came with truth. Emily and Michael were standing on the balcony of their apartment. The city stretched beneath them like a sea of lights. The wind was soft. The moment was quiet. Michael took her hands. "Do you remember when you told me you were too fat to be loved?" he asked, Emily nodded, her throat tightening. I remember thinking how cruel the world had been to teach you that lie. He reached into his pocket. I don't want to be the man who rescued you. I want to be the man who walks beside you for the rest of our lives. He knelt. Emily, will you marry me? For the first time in her life, she didn't cry from pain. She cried from safety, from being chosen without conditions, from being loved without correction, from being seen exactly as she was. Yes, she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times, yes. Inside her chest, the past tried to scream. Daniel's voice, the humiliation, the shame. But for the first time, the past had no power. Daniel's world was collapsing. The same arrogance that once gave him confidence now isolated him. His business began to crumble after multiple bad investments. Partners left. Clients disappeared. Debts piled up. And then one evening, scrolling through social media, he saw it. Emily, engaged, radiant, standing beside Michael, the man he once laughed at, the man he had never taken seriously. The realization hit like a blade. Emily had not only survived without him, she had thrived. Daniel tried to reach out. A message, then another, then a desperate call. No answer. For the first time, Daniel felt the exact emotion he had once inflicted so casually: rejection. But now, there was no audience to impress, no laughter to hide behind, only regret. He had lost her not because she was too much, but because he was never enough to deserve her loyalty, her love, or her soul. The wedding was intimate, elegant, peaceful. Emily wore a simple dress, not to hide her body, but to celebrate it. Every step down the aisle felt like a declaration. I survived. I grew. I chose myself. When Michael saw her, he didn't see flaws. He saw the woman who had walked through fire and still learned how to love again. And in the back of the hall, Daniel stood alone, uninvited, unnoticed, but present. Not as a guest, as a ghost of a life he destroyed with his own cruelty. Emily's eyes met his for just a second. No anger, no revenge, no triumph, only peace. She turned back to Michael. That was the real victory. Later that night, as they danced under warm lights, Emily whispered, I used to believe I was too fat to be loved. Michael smiled. You were never too hard to love. You were just waiting for the right heart to find you. And finally, she believed it too. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever been told you were too much or not enough, remember this: you don't need to change who you are to deserve love. You only need to stop listening to those who benefit from your silence. Subscribe for more stories of resilience, silent strength, and emotional justice. Your comeback is coming, even if right now no one sees it yet.